Well, California has successfully fought back and beat Trump's efforts to rig our system and to subvert democracy. Gavin Newsom led the charge to get Prop 50 passed, which would help redistrict some of California's electoral districts. So we will be able to offset the rigging that Trump has been doing with Greg Abbott in Texas and possibly in other parts of the country. And Prop 50 overwhelmingly passed. The California voters have spoken. They support Gavin Newsom. They support the Democratic Party. They support restoring and maintaining democracy in this country. And we're kind of unpacking the results of that and the reasoning behind it and why we suspect it passed and the Trump administration's crybaby response to it about false claims of fraudulent elections, fraudulent ballots. And we're going to shut all that down and talk about how a lot of that is nonsense and it's just, sour grapes, and it's just them being crybabies. I'm Shant Karnikian. That's Brian Kabateck over there coming to you from California, where we are practicing lawyers. We're at a law firm based out of California. This is Civil Action, our show on the Legal AF network. If you like this content, if you like Legal AF and you like Popok and the rest of the team here, remember, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, share with us your comments and feedback. We love hearing from you. So this one's kind of extra special to us because it's right in our backyard, coming straight from California. Brian, what do you want to say about Prop 50 and what we saw?
Well, I think first as a qualifier, I've been involved in California politics for, over 20 years, maybe longer than that, actively involved lobbying.
You're going to run for governor?
I am not going to run for governor. We can dispel that right now and here. But
people want to know. Yeah.
So I don't think anyone wants to know. But I will say this is truly a story today of the good, the bad, and the ugly. So the ugly is Donald Trump's complete and absolute meltdown. I wonder if he's medicated right now in the White House. What he did, and there's so much to unpack here, what he did was actually send apparently more troops into California, into major cities. And what we heard, at least from Gavin Newsom last night, is that there were troops at Dodger Stadium, which I find incredibly ironic considering that they just won the World Series and now their parking lot's being taken over by troops. Now, this is no doubt, this is a precursor. This is a test run for 2026 and the midterm elections, when I'm certain that the Trump administration intends to use troops in blue states to intimidate voters. And it isn't going to work here in California, and it's probably going to get shut down by the court. So that's part of it. Now let's sort of pivot to the good here. Overwhelming win, probably at the end of the day in the mid 60% range, somewhere between 63, 67%, maybe higher. And apparently the no vote, which was in the 30s, got less votes than Trump got.
The no vote, which is sort of, you would presume, is the pro-MAGA vote,
right. And there's probably some reasons for that, Sean. I mean, one of the reasons is it was a single issue on the ballot, and the MAGA people probably saw that this was going down in flames in California and stayed home. So there was apathy on their end, while as on the other side, there was anything other than apathy, which really demonstrates how people are waking up. Yeah. And it is a waking up in California.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, one astounding statistic that I know there is that 70% of ballots were cast early. That shows a lot of enthusiasm. You had overwhelming support from the Latino and Asian American population here in California, because they see this as a means of restoring representation. If they're going to game the system in Texas or other parts of the country, it's like, well, no, we want our representation. We're a diverse state. We ought to be equally represented.
And can I interrupt and comment on one thing there? The Latino vote shouldn't surprise anyone. In fact, I've debated Republicans about this, and I said, you've lost the Latino vote for a generation, and they push back. No, and let me put my personal wealth on this. You have lost the Latino vote for a generation. But the Asian interests me because the Asian vote in California does tend to bend conservative. Yeah. And for them to be going on the yes on 50 is very interesting to me. Okay, carry on. I just had to jump in.
No, I was just going to say, I think that message of ending political manipulation resonates with everyone, maybe even across party lines or folks that are sort of more in the center. It resonates with them. So, but I think the statistic you said a moment ago is very astounding too, that the no vote, the sort of, it could be pro-MAGA, but it could also be more moderate people that are like, well, yes, this is something that, it's awful to redistrict and gerrymander. However, this isn't how to fight it. et cetera. You had people like Arnold Schwarzenegger that took that position that this isn't how to fight. So even if you discount some of that for that, it goes to show that even the pro-Trump people compared to the last presidential election, even the pro-Trump people, you're right, maybe they stayed at home, but it goes to show that the support is starting to dwindle.
Well, and I think this goes to another issue, sort of the good, the bad, and the ugly, is the hypocrisy. So, me personally, I think California had a good system in place. I wish they didn't have to do this, but they had to do this because of what happened in Texas, what's happening in Florida and other states. And we do need to spend a little time talking about that, but just one moment before we get to that. The hypocrisy I'm talking about is out of the Trump administration, who sits there and castigates California for doing this and says, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do this. No, right. It was shocking, right?
Yeah, you shouldn't do it. You're doing it in Texas. You shouldn't do it. Yeah,
right. You should sit back and take it while we give it to you. And we do whatever the F we want. Yet you in California should stick with your old plan. Yeah. Oh, okay. I mean, people are waking up to the idiocy of those kind of comments. But let's pivot, Shant, to talk about what can happen here, and what we could see happening in other states.
So what this does is adds 5 congressional districts, likely to end up being Democratic anyway, and that could alter the national balance of power in the 2026 midterms that are going to come up next year in November. And it offsets the new districts that are being added in places like Texas, assuming all else being equal, right? And in all likelihood, looking at the trends, you will have the Republicans losing control of the House at least. So that's a real possibility here. And I think it's necessary. I think this is how you fight the gamesmanship, because they're trying to solidify their majority. They see that they have districts that are slipping. And in order to make up for that, they're doing what Greg Abbott did in Texas. And we've talked about that before. And this sort of offsets that. And I'm glad California is leading the charge on that, because you need someone like Newsom to step up, and you need an anti-Trump character.
There are so many layers here to this issue, though, because remember, the United States Supreme Court just heard arguments on whether or not the Voting Rights Act still applies. Mm-hmm. That could undermine legal challenges in some states, both blue and red. It could undermine those legal challenges. They could be going forward with this. There are just a number of states out there, Indiana, Florida, for example, that have this potentially. Kansas, Nebraska. These are deep red states, and they're looking at it. And one possibility is that if all of this happens, California happens, some of the other blue states happen, and then this red mass, who's got their head stuck so far up Donald Trump's ass they're willing to do anything. The Democrats could end up losing, being in a minority of 15 seats. Now, I want to comment on this, and then I'll throw it to you. That assumes that these districts that voted for Trump a year ago
stay that way.
They're going to stay red. They're going to stay Trump. And that is, I think, an open question.
Yeah. Well, do you think we're going to start seeing the opposite of this, kind of seeing more of what happened in Texas? I mean, I think you just said it. You're going to start seeing this in other places. So, you're going to need blue states to come back and do this in other places to counteract what the MAGA crowd is going to do.
So I think you've got 3 factors working here. The first factor is you have states like California and Texas who already have done it. Other states are doing it. Okay, you got that factor. The second factor you got is the motivation now of what happened in California, motivating other blue states,
right,
and potentially red states to redistrict, to gerrymander, to set things up so that they get an edge for their guy, right? The final is what I consider to be kind of the great unknown, and that kind of pivots us to New Jersey and Virginia, is Trump continuing to do what he's doing is pissing people off. And I contend that for every Trump voter out there who's waving the flag because of what Trump's doing, there's just as many people who were in the middle. And let me explain this, and then I'll shut up because I'm talking too much on this one because I'm so hyped up and probably didn't sleep at all last night. Is that what's happening is the Trump voters are always going to be the Trump voters. It's that middle group, Shant, that remember there's 20 or so percentage of voters voted for Trump for a variety of reasons. Too much.
They're not necessarily the MAGA crowd, but they are Republicans, and they happen to vote for him.
And the two people, both women, let's not forget that, both women who won governorships in Virginia and New Jersey were moderate.
Yep.
Had good records and did much better than expected.
Yeah.
Now, if this trend continues for the next 12 months, this hope that the Republicans are going to keep keep Congress is, with 15 seats, just doing the math right now, I think fades very quickly.
Yeah.
And listen, that's my last comment on this, because there's so much to say here. I'll throw it to you, Shant, and take it home.
Yeah, I mean, not much to add here. I mean, this is positive news. If for anything, because yes, you're right. There could be an arms race of redistricting that happens and nothing might change, or the Republicans game the system so much that it's impossible to take the majority. But it does seem like the trend, all else being equal, if this arms race doesn't occur, if Democrats don't try to keep tinkering with how democracy is supposed to work, you're right. This is a trend in favor of people going back to normalcy, realizing that this crazy Trump experiment of authoritarianism is failing. And I think that's my takeaway from this, that there's enthusiasm for the right, or enthusiasm for the left, or at the very least, enthusiasm for normalcy, for democracy, and people saying, we can't have this nonsense anymore. I think you're right. Putting aside the diehard MAGA people, you have folks that are now starting to realize, even if they were on the right, or they were moderate, or they were just Republicans, they're starting to realize that this isn't it. This isn't what we're looking for. Trump isn't our answer. He's not our savior. So people are jumping ship, and it's a good and positive trend to see for democracy and for everyone, for the country. So we'll keep you posted on this. We'll see if there's this arms race that flares up when it comes to redistricting and gerrymandering, and we'll report on that as well. So another installment of Civil Action here from California, Prop 50, great news. If you like this content, remember, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share with us your comments and feedback. And good to see you this time, and we'll see you on the next one, hopefully with good news again.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.